This is a short story about a drive I did in 1977 from Kuwait to Reading in the UK, and it's entitled 4,000 Miles in 7 Days Solo, or An Idiot in a Fantastic Car. Good, loads the car. After coming to office, brings the other guitar. Oh, bugger. Did they really think the dust was something other than dust? I reloaded the car. It didn't take as long as time as I had some practice. With the last piece stowed, I picked up the gut string guitar and walked to the office. It was empty, but from somewhere in the building I could hear music and what I thought was singing. I followed the sound through a couple of more doors, and there, to my utter surprise, was one of the policemen playing my guitar and half a dozen or so other people singing and laughing. As I entered, the music stopped and the guitar-playing policeman said, "Come, we play together." It was now about 2:30 in the morning. They produced a mug of coffee for me and I strummed along to the songs they were singing. I don't think I played many of the right chords, but they seemed to enjoy themselves and I wasn't in any trouble. That went on for about 3/4 of an hour before they told me they could open the barrier for me to pass through. I'd made it into Germany. Just Belgium and France to go, and then Dover and home. The coffee must have been strong because in spite of the hour, the darkest hour of the night, I felt able to press on. It's probably a good thing that sat-navs didn't exist. If they had, I would have seen it was over 420 miles to the next place I intended to make a proper rest stop. If I'd realised that, I would have stopped sooner. But on the map, it didn't look so far, probably due to the scale and the fact that I was really very tired. Nevertheless, I made it with just a couple of cups of coffee stops along the way, arriving as most folk were going off to work. I had a good breakfast before sleeping once again in the passenger seat. In the UK, I would have smelt a good breakfast as the bacon fried in the pan, but this was Germany, and although the breakfast was really good, there was no inviting smell. The only thing that was hot was the coffee. The rest was cold ham, salami and cheese, and oh, a hard, cold boiled egg. I'm not complaining. It was more than welcome and a very generous serving. It was nearing midday by now and I had 270 miles to Calais. I reckoned on about 4 hours, but the weather was not kind. The rain started and I slowed up, especially in Belgium as the lorries churned up water making visibility poor. It took a lot longer, nearly 7 hours by the time I reached the queue for the ferry. In those days the ferry port was not as well organised as today and there were not as many ferries on the route. The best crossing I could get would take me to Dover at 7 o'clock in the morning, the following morning. I bought a ticket and slept in the car until loading time. It took a while to get to sleep due to my mind churning over once again what would happen at the Dover customs. I had two options in mind for my working future. One was to find a product I could use in Kuwait to start a business, and the other was to find a decent job in the UK. Hence, I didn't know what to tell the customs and excise people. Did I tell them I was staying or leaving? It would make a difference to the duty I would have to pay. I did get a bit of sleep, but not much. Loading the ferry started at 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock on a very unpleasant December morning. Cold, raining and dark. The crossing was rough and got rougher as the ship approached Dover and the wind increased. The ferry disgorged its load of cars and lorries into a long queue to the customs shed. Again, Dover Harbour has seen a lot of improvement since 1977. It was raining hard and the wind blew and the rain was almost horizontal. It was 7 o'clock on a very nasty winter morning. The sort of morning, I assumed, when no customs officer would be in a good mood. Let's hope I don't get a grumpy one, I thought. The queue was stationary for ages, and when it did move, it was only for a car's length. I was well back in the queue and expected to get stuck there for ages. In the far distance, way down the queue, walked a man in a black coat and a hood. He was stopping at each car and looking. And what I didn't know, but every so often he would speak to the occupants and the car would pull out of the queue and seemingly jump the queue. Arriving at the front of my car, he studied the number plate, walked round to my side, the Mercedes was left-hand drive, and tapped on the window. "Where have you come from?" he asked. "Q8. "Have you got anything to declare?" "Well, yes. There's the car itself, and I have a lot of stuff in the car which I might have to pay duty on," I told him. Best to be honest, I thought. "How long do you intend to stay?" "Don't really know. I might stay in the UK or go back to Q8. I don't know right now." "Show me your passport." I handed it to him and he took it. "You're British?" "Yes," I said, then realised I was still wearing my red and white heavy Arabic headdress, which I did a lot at the time because it's comfortable and warm, especially on a morning like this. He hesitated for a moment, then handing back my passport he said, "You can go, but if you decide to stay in the country, you must go to the nearest Customs and Excise office and declare the car. Just pull out and go down the side of the building." "Thank you very much," I said with great relief. I couldn't believe my luck. At 8:30 I drove out of Dover Harbour's ferry terminal with 130 miles left to complete the trip. The odometer showed that I had covered just under 4,000 miles. It had taken me 6 days, 12 hours. I estimated the car had burned 220 gallons of fuel, so I had left a heavy carbon footprint, but in style. In the Mercedes 280 SL, I felt I was doing it in style. The car was so heavily laden, the two back tyres, which were new when I started, were completely shot. The inside half of each tyre was missing all its tread. But having done it, I was one happy man. 4 months later, having taken a job in the UK rather than turning to the Middle East, I went to the customs office in Dudley, heart of the Black Country. "I've come to declare my car," I told the chap behind the desk. "Why?" he wanted to know. "Because the customs officer at Dover told me to do so." "Well, I'm not interested in dealing with that," he told me. "So, shall I just forget about it then?" I asked. "That would be best." So I did, and I used the car for work for the next few months. On a visit to head office in the east of London, I'd parked the car on the road. When the meeting was over, I found the car vandalised. A lot of personal paperwork stolen, including my logbook of the journey. Hence it has taken me 38 years to get round to writing this little story. I might have forgotten some of the place names, but the details I have written I can recall as if they were yesterday. It was a drive I shall never repeat, and with all the trouble in the Middle East at the time, I doubt anyone would want to repeat it, especially not solo. After the car was vandalised in London, the insurance company wanted to write it off. I was broken-hearted, and I put it into an old concrete garage that I'd got. The door was blown off in a gale, so I boarded it up, and I didn't see the car for 10 years. And then we were going to build a house at the back of the garden. I had to knock the garage down, and I sold the car on eBay for a lot more money than I paid for it, and it was enough money for me to buy another boat. And then it was done up, apparently, and taken back out to the Middle East. So I hope that somebody now is enjoying a fantastic car. So if you've got this far, thank you very, very much indeed for watching, listening, and come back for another story another time. Bye bye.